Okay, welcome to the Celtics podcast with Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman. I'm Gary Tanguay here on CLNS. Bob, Celtics right now, number 2 team in what I think is going to be a tremendous playoff season. I think it's going to be awesome. A lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon. I'm hesitant because I don't know about this team in the postseason. I don't know if they can live up to the expectation they've created during the regular season. Your thoughts?
Well, for me, it's house money because of the Robert Williams thing, period. End of story. They were playing as well as anybody. We know that. We know they were first in defense, first in offense, first in this, first in that for about a 6-week period. They were playing at a level that was reminiscent of the 85-86 this time of the year. They were killing people. They have won 3 games over 40. No Celtic team in its history, a 75-year history, has ever done that. And they were just killing people. And then he went down. And they have to have him. He's not replaceable. And now, actually, their whole first 8, it was all functioning beautifully. Tatum was playing at a top 5 level. Brown was playing at a high level. Marcus Smart had utterly reinvented himself as a true point guard, and including one game in which he took 3 shots and had 13 assists. If you told me in the beginning of January that was possible ever, I'd say I'd laugh, right? White turns out to be a great addition. On and on. Grant Williams doing his role. Tice doing his role. Well, there's a limit to what they can accomplish without Robert Williams. So why are people going to get excited? Sit back and enjoy it. I don't expect them, depending on they can win a series and 2, but if they had Robert Williams, I would be healthy and functioning the way they were. I'd be excited. I'd revved up. But how can you get too excited if they don't have him? I'm sorry.
You can't, Bob. And like you said, to me, all right, the negative is, you're talking about if you win a playoff series, you're ecstatic. The positive of this is going in next year.
Right.
To me, it's almost like going in next year, we've got optimism. We've got momentum. Let's, Brad Stevens, make another move, one more move. And it doesn't have to be a huge one. It's just got to be another move that takes them to where they belong in the conversation now with the top team. Whoever comes out of the East this year and wins the East and maybe wins the whole thing, that's what I think you've got to look at. And I said this all along, listen, I'm torn on this one. I'm really torn on Robert Williams, what you do with him, because he's obviously not reliable from a health standpoint. So what do you do with him, Bob? Do you keep doing this and say, if we have a healthy Robert Williams, we're a team that can compete for the title? Or do you say, hey, you know what? We're going to look at what can we get for Robert Williams to where we can get a reliable player there, and instead of just rolling the dice on him, because it's just over and over and over with him.
It's always a case of if he's on the court. It's always been a case. We for a couple of years said, God, we see these flashes of Rob, and then suddenly we got the whole package. Right. We had the whole package for 3 months or 2 months or whatever, and then suddenly, boom, it wasn't there anymore. We saw what he could be, and it was everything they thought. It was everything Danny Ainge, who rolled the dice with this guy, thought he could be.
I'll take another Williams. I'll take Mark Williams from Duke. Oh. Give me Mark Williams instead of Robert Williams, because I think he can do some of the same things. Obviously, he's young. He's going to come out in the draft this year. I think you need somebody else. If you're going to keep Robert Williams, you need somebody else kind of like him that's a rim protector, that if he's hurt, because let's face it, Daniel Tice and Al Horford, they're not that. They're good. Like, Horford's been great this year for his age in this stage of his career, and I love Tice as a backup. But you got to have somebody else in there that can protect the rim and be a defensive menace.
He's replaceable. Daniel Tice was fulfilling the perfect role for him. Is what he is. He's a serviceable backup player, in a modern game with the pick and roll and the whole thing. He fits in and all that, and he can, but he's Daniel Tice. He's not on. So I'm just thinking, but I mentioned one other name, Grant Williams. I wish he was 6'9". I always say that, but he's an amazing thing when he gets done at 6'6" at times, and now and made himself into a reliable corner 3-point shooter. I'm saying everything was going right. Everything that they could have. Pritchard entering back
was playing.
That was great, and so I'm disappointed. But I'm not going to hold them to anything. I'm holding them. Do what they can do. That they and whatever happens. That's all. But
I think I think that you have to keep Williams because of what he can do, and Jeff's idea of you got to get one more piece, maybe is someone who can play like him. But I don't
draft somebody like Mark Williams.
Yeah,
that you can bring along, and you need a shooter. I think you need one more shooter in this team.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, I look to next year. I mean, I'm with that. That to me, what is I agree with both of you. The thing that kind of as a Celtics fan that pissed me off when this was going on is, where have you been? Where have you been? How come you weren't doing this all along? But, that's
part of it. Maybe just finally responding to the coach, finally getting his message across, whatever it was,
holding them accountable, holding them. It took him a while to be able to figure this team out. But Ime Udoka and Brad Stevens, I don't want to say it like this. They're not that far apart, but they are very different in their coaching, not philosophies, how they deal with players. And I think Ime felt like, well, I can't come in and rock the boat right away and hold these guys accountable. They don't know me. They don't trust me. Just because I coached them a couple summers ago for a few weeks doesn't mean I can go all in on them. Well, he had their attention. Think about it. The only way you get guys like this attention is when they lose, right? When they win, they're not buying into whatever you're going to try to tell them to get better. But when they lose, you got them at that point. And I think Ime felt like, okay, now is the time when I can really hold them accountable. He did that earlier this season. And again, now he's got their I guess it was like Brad early on, right? When Brad took those teams to the Eastern Conference Finals, they had to trust them, the players. They had to respect them. Well, I think Ime, it's like that now. Okay, whatever he did, it worked. He pushed the right buttons. So now we believe in Ime Udoka. And I'm glad because, again, I always remember Bob prior in the preseason, Bob's words resonated. He said, I've never seen a coach that had never coached a game get so much positive publicity.
Right.
It's true. Like he was right. And then they were killing him early. And I think, and I'm not usually this guy, but like I've learned over the years, you got to be patient. And I learned it a little bit this year with Hubert Davis. You got to be patient. And with Ime Udoka, you can't push the panic button 20, 25 games into his NBA coaching career when there are a lot of bad habits built up with this group.
As we wrap up on the Celtics, one thing that occurred to me that is a tribute to Danny Ainge is they were starting 4 of their own number ones with Robert Williams.
Yeah.
Do a survey of the NBA and find me how many teams ever do that, let alone, so that's pretty good. They were starting 4. Now, this happened once before in my early days. The Celtics started 5 number ones in 1971 or so with Cowens.
Different time, though.
Satch, JoJo, and Cheney. I'm just saying, I remember taking note of that at the time, but that you don't see that. You don't see that. So anyway, so I'm just asking people, and I know this is fruitless, okay? But I want to be on record. People, Celtic fans, Celtic Nation, whatever you want to call it, just relax and enjoy it. Don't hold them to any standard without Robert Williams. That just enjoy it. They'll do what they can do. That's all. Don't get excited.
Guys, thank you very much. That'll do it for our Celtic podcast with Jeff Goodman and Bob Ryan. I'm Gary Tanguay. We'll talk to you next week.